What's up, guys? It's John here. I know it's been a while. Had a lot of things. Had some weddings going on, and I transitioned to a new job and such, so just had a lot of things happening. I've been wanting to cover more basketball, but the issue is it's really tough for me to cover nights unless I do them essentially around this time, because if I do them and I work basically until like 6 o'clock, so I wouldn't be able to get out those nights games in time, and it's kind of, in my opinion, covering the next day doesn't make sense because a lot of times, based off of one day, the next day, I think other things might happen. So it's been tough, but I'm like, let me just try and start doing some around this time if I'm up. So I wanted to go through the schedule for tomorrow, as well as just kind of go into something interesting regarding wrestling and the NBA Finals. Actually, had I used my wrestling logic with the NFL, just basically anyone that doesn't watch wrestling, there's a million parallels that I've noticed over the years. Things like wrestling always seems to have their WrestleMania the year before, or the year after, sometimes the same year, in the same venue, or it'll be in the venue of like the team. So like, it was in Philly, and a couple years ago, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, WrestleMania was in Philly. It was just in Vegas. It's going to be in Louisiana next year. So it's like weird how it followed, and that's where the Super Bowl's been, obviously. So it's interesting how it follows the teams around. And then there was like a story, obviously, with Mahomes, the Chiefs captain, the tribal chief, if you will, and Roman Reigns in wrestling is known as the tribal chief. He won a couple WrestleManias in a row. He went against Cody Rhodes in Philly and beat him. The next year, Cody beat him to end his streak, which is exactly what the Eagles did to Patrick Mahomes. And there's like a million things. Like the cities are really interesting. But there's something I noticed with John Cena here. And I kind of talked about at the beginning of the year, as to how I think it fits into the finals. But again, the stories that I see in the NFL, the NBA, they mirror a lot of these wrestling storylines. Things will happen in wrestling. A guy from a certain city will win, like the championship the same night that a team wins a Super Bowl. Like, and their quarterbacks from the same city, stuff like that. And then like the following of the venues is really interesting. It's been like this for a while. They were in Tampa when the Bucks won. They were in LA when the Rams won, but COVID was going on, so they weren't able to have the exact venue they wanted. But it's really interesting. And then you have like The Rock involved. Obviously, he ran the XFL, so there's like a lot of merit behind it too. He got McAfee involved, so it does make you wonder. Again, they're all designated as sports entertainment. I think you guys might be a little fascinated with the Cena parallel here, a little symbolism. So here's tomorrow's games. For my playoff bracket, basically, as of now, everything in the West that I predicted is happening outside of. I didn't think they were going to shut down Wemby and all that. I thought the Spurs were going to get in, and the Mavs. And right now, I think the Mavs will still get in. So we're looking to go like 9 out of 10, maybe 8 out of 10 in the West. And then in the East, we're 10 out of 10. I think I had the Bulls and Hawks as my 9 and 10. And right now, it's like the Bulls and Magic or something, or what's the Magic? So, yeah, I think it might be Bulls and Magic. But we have all 10, and I think that's pretty easy. Like the Raptors, the Wizards, the Nets, they're just teams that I don't think anybody has any belief in. I don't think their fan bases are showing out. They're not drawing any ratings. At least the Hawks can get some ratings. So, and Chicago's got loyal fans. So, for me, it just kind of made sense. And Detroit, because of Cade, it just made sense. This would be their year, a big turnaround year. So anyway, Houston was another one that I definitely had getting in. I'll be honest, I did not have them doing this well. I had them. If you watch I think I've done two now. I can't remember, but playoff prediction videos. I had the Rockets winning the play-in, I believe, like the first round. And I might have had them even getting out of the first. I can't quite remember. But I didn't think they were going to do this. But it makes sense. They kind of give me Lions vibes. And oh yeah, one thing another wrestling related thing I want to get into is these fake fights. I brought it up in my last video, and since then again, every single night, and it seems like KD is like the outlier, not the outlier. The most of the time KD does seem to be, I don't know what you refer him to, the instigator, but he's involved in like it seems like half of these scuffles. So it makes me wonder if we're going to have a pretty deep playoff run for KD because they could have a lot of guys doing this, and obviously they're not real fights. The hockey fights happened, and literally the next night after these NBA guys are getting roasted for their pathetic All-Star performance, we're seeing headlocks and we're seeing takedowns and you know, just fist being thrown and everything you can imagine. A lot of trash talking. So they're just taking a cue from wrestling, and they took a cue from hockey. But again, the games are still ridiculous. You know, they don't play defense. They just fight. They have like a fake fight or two a night, a technical, an ejection, and they call it a game. So anyway, I'll cover tomorrow's games, and then I'm going to go into the Cena thing. So this first one, you know, is kind of a 50-50 in my opinion. I do think that the Magic, they're going to hold their spot, get in, and really here I like to look at the history. If they've played a couple games, I imagine. So Magic took the first two decisively, and over the last 5, we have a couple upsets for the Wizards. So I like the Magic here, but I like the Wizards to cover. I think that's the best play. Let's look at tonight. All right, we got Lakers, Hornets. Oh, Hornets got an upset. And Bulls look like they're going to beat the Kings, which would actually work well for my Mavs getting in the playoffs. I think their Kings are one of the teams that they're chasing down. What's the Kings' record? Maybe not the. Yeah, I think it might be the Kings. I'm not positive. Anyway, for Magic Wizards, I like the. Like I said, I think the Magic will win the game. 240 is not the highest payout, but I could see a good bit of people at home on the Wizards at 240 throwing that in a parlay. So I think it's going to be a Magic win, a Wizards cover here. And I like the under because it seems like the last 2 games are pretty high scoring between these two. So there's been a lot of sweeps, so I'm not saying like the Magic aren't going to beat them by double digits again. But I think more people might be on that or just on the straight Wizards money line. So I like Wizards to cover. Rockets Heat, it's a thin spread, and I can't remember. Yeah, the Heat are a team that, okay, so the Heat might be the one down there with the Bulls. I think they are, yeah. Just to make them look somewhat competent. It's on NBA TV. It's a 5.5-point spread. I don't know why this keeps happening. I think the Heat are gonna win this game outright. You know, the Rockets, in my opinion, even on the road, should be like -7, -8 here. The Heat without Jimmy are just not a good team at all. If this keeps happening, I apologize. I'm not sure why it's happening. If it happens again, I'll refresh the page. All right, let's try this. Let's see if this works. All right, hopefully this works. So yeah, I got the Heat winning outright this game. As far as the over/under, I'm leaning under. Let me see. It's because the NBA's games are so high scoring now. Anything like the low 210s. So the last one actually went under. So let's look at their last 5. All 5 are overs for the Rockets. Looks like essentially all but 1 are over. Yeah, so basically 9 of the 10 games between these two combined have gone over this spread of 213.5. I just think I've screwed it up again. So I like the under. I think way more people are going to be on the over here because a lot of people look at the history, and again, 213.5 is not that high scoring. So I like the under on. It's going to keep happening. Both these first 2 games, Pelicans, Wolves. It's a very high spread. The Pelicans are a team I don't really believe in that much. I never did. I just think they're going to do something with Zion and eventually move on. So it's a high spread. I don't think people believe in the Pelicans, but 13.5 is a lot. So I'm going to take Anthony Edwards to go nuts and win by 13.5. Let me go into it a different way here. Maybe the schedule will show it. All right, there we go. We're going to do it this way so it doesn't keep refreshing on us. So yeah, I got the T-Wolves minus 13.5. And 229.5 is about online for these guys. I would lean over, just because it is still pretty high, 230. So I think the over works here, and I think Edwards is gonna have a fast-paced game. Hornets, Thunder, a 20-point spread. The Hornets just got an upset, so I think the Thunder are going to cover this 19.5. Also, it just bolsters the SGA MVP argument. Obviously, in any real league, they would have Joker as the MVP. And even the NBA admits that the MVP is basically a facade, a charade, whatever you want to call it. Because they've come out and said, oh yeah, if a guy wins MVP a couple times, then we're harder on him the next time, which just doesn't make sense. It's about the most valuable player. It should have nothing to do with prior years and any of that. So it's just one thing that like the All-Star game, where just because it's not really part of the actual championship and the season itself, the NBA basically comes out and says it's scripted, but the rest of it's all scripted, obviously. But yeah, it's going to bolster the SGA argument if he has a crazy game, which I believe he will. And I like the over on this one as well. And I like the over on the next two, just because they're so high scoring. 240, 235.5. Those are really high spreads. You notice almost all of these are really high spreads. And it's just because every year the points go up like 5 or 10 points. But just the teams involved and the fact that anytime they're around 240, I'm going to take the over. So I got the over on this next game too, which is Spurs Sixers. And we got 5.5. I don't think the Spurs are doing anything. Wemby's out. They're not going to do anything special. I think it's worth taking the Sixers here on the money line. I think that's the best play. It's just going to have nice value like the Heat. So you're getting about plus 200 something, 180 something, I think. So I like the Sixers straight up. Detroit, Dallas. I do think Dallas is still going to get in. But 8.5 with Dallas at home. Dallas isn't like atrocious, they still have some players, so it's just one where even without Kyrie's out, AD's out. They're talking about AD possibly coming back. That's why I think Dallas will make a run. But for this game, I do like the Pistons to cover, and I like the under in this one. I know it's 235, but my logic is I think with the way Cade's been playing, they've been playing a very high-paced, fast-paced game, and Dallas doesn't really have in my opinion, any kind of defense right now. So I think the public is going to assume Detroit's going to put up like 130 or something. So, yeah, I think this one's going to go under. Boston, Utah, 12.5. That's about right, even in Utah. I'm going to take the Jazz to cover, though. I think the Jazz will cover this spread and maybe make it a close game. I don't think Boston's going to look like unstoppable rolling into the playoffs like they have the Thunder looking, or the Cavs. But I think they're going to look good. But I like the Jazz to cover the spread, and I'll take the under here. Next we got Cavs, Suns. This should be a fun game. I'm calling it now. Kevin Durant and either Mobley or Mitchell are going to get into a scuffle. I'm predicting that right now. I guarantee that happens. And I like the over on this one because it's set pretty darn high. And it is a game where I can see them wanting a couple guys to feast. And then 6.5 here in Phoenix. I'll take the Cavs to cover that. I think, again, a lot of the public, as good as the Cavs have been, they've really been pushing how good they are with the streak. The crazy streak, and just in general, they've been very, very, in my opinion, unblemished this year. But I think in Phoenix, people are gonna probably tend to take the Suns. So I'll take the Sixers here minus 6.5. Denver, Portland. I think Joker's out as well as Gordon, but I think also not Gordon, Murray, but also the Blazers are still technically in contention, and I don't think they're going to get in, even though a couple years ago I talked about how they can make a run pretty soon, and it's because of Shadon Sharp, and he was like a nobody, and he barely played the first year. That was last year, and Now he's starting to look pretty good. He's almost at 20 points a game. A good two-way player. So he's kind of just a freak. He's like 6'5", 6'6", really lanky. Crazy dunker. He has dunk of the year. So he's definitely a fun guy to watch, and you can tell he's got the basketball IQ, and by that I don't mean actual basketball IQ. He probably does, but I mean more. He just is able to follow a script very well. He just transitions very well. He looks pretty flawless. You can tell when he's selling and when he's actually trying, but it's not too obvious to the naked eye. But yeah, I think Shadon's going to be a star, and I got Portland here, and then we got Memphis and the Clippers, a 6.5 point spread. Clippers minus 6.5. Unless Ja's out, which I don't think he is. I don't understand this spread at all. Maybe he was. Let me see. Maybe. Did he play last game? Because if Ja's. Okay, so Ja is out. Maybe I did see something about that. Even with that, 6.5 is pretty heavy. The Clippers aren't exactly like an unstoppable force. They're a good team. But, again, I don't think that warrants a 6.5 point spread. So, oh yeah, on Denver, Portland, on that one I actually like the over, even though it's set low. Simply because I feel like Denver always plays this crazy slow pace. And then I think Jokic is still out, so that would indicate, obviously, less scoring, less fluidity on the offensive end. But yeah, I just feel like anytime Denver's involved, it's like a slower paced game. So I like the over there. And then on the Clippers, Grizzlies, I like the under there. I also like to balance out my over-unders because not always, sometimes they'll all go over, they'll all go under. But I think most of the time they try and have pretty close to 50-50 on overs and unders. It kind of balances out. So that's my schedule for tomorrow. Just basically looking at what I think makes sense for as far as lines, the last couple games, where I think the public's going to be is the most important. As far as the playoffs, so this is the John Cena thing. I know it took me a while to get here. And also going forward, I'm going to get back in my Discord and see if this works for people. I think it might be better. I need to get back to, because I pride myself on my Patreon where, I would do my weekly picks and getting, just I think the best plays out, how many units. It's a system that I used, and it really does work. But I was doing them daily, like every single day for, gosh, like almost a year. And then now it's been a little bit, so I want to apologize to anyone over on the Patreon. I am going to start getting a much better schedule out where we'll have way more plays. I've been getting back into tennis. I've had a little more time outside of like the last couple of weeks have been kind of hectic, but just in general, I have more time in my day now. So I'll be able to get multiple plays a week out there and the unit amount, all that stuff. So anyone that hasn't checked that out, basically I do an exact, and I save every single pick, so it doesn't matter like when you watch it. Like you can watch the very, if you watch my, say I put one out tomorrow with all my picks, and you watch, it's your first time watching, you just went over there for the first time. I scroll and I show every single pick we've ever made. Like I don't do it redundantly where every video I'm going over thousands of plays, but they're all logged and you can like see exactly how many units we've won since starting, and we've picked up quite a bit of units. But anyway, we did a lot better with some sports than others. Like baseball, we did terrible with, but we did good with college. We did good with basketball. That the basketball I put out, and pretty good with the NFL, and really good with tennis. So anyway, the John Cena thing. Yeah, what I was gonna say is, I was talking about the Discord. I might just start doing, like, I'll still do regular videos if I can, but I think it might be better just to do live, because then I get off work, get home, I can go live around like 8:30 or something if that's not too late for people, and we could just just shoot the shit. We could talk about everything, which is if you watch any of my old live videos, I usually cover the topic at hand, whether it's an NFL game, the Super Bowl, whatever. But we talk about everything, freaking history, it don't matter. But politics, I don't care. But yeah, so anyway, I think going live would make it where basically like multiple times a week I can do a video and we can go into anything. So let me know if that works for you guys in the comments. Just so if there's not enough people, there's no point. If no one really has the time, I get it. But if there's enough people that want to do like a multi-week live video thing, I think that might be better. So anyway, the John Cena thing's interesting. So John Cena is from Boston. They just won the championship. They won their 18th. They were tied at 17, and then you could say they took the record. And John Cena just turned Hollywood. He just sold out to The Rock in wrestling, of course. Although I think he did sell Hollywood in real life too. If you saw the whole China thing. But anyway, now Hollywood, LA, and the Lakers, who are on number 17. John Cena is going for his 17th championship, which would give him the record. So that's what I mean about wrestling, like sandwiching these other sports. You have Boston to LA with Cena here. I went over the Philly thing in the NFL and the tribal chief, all that. And then the Celtics just got the record, which is what Cena's going for. And now the Lakers going to tie it back up. So anyway, I guess with wrestling logic, if the Celtics win again, that would line up more. If Cena wins at Mania and the Lakers winning, would keep it tied, which would line up with Cody winning at Mania because that would keep Cena tied with Ric Flair. But anyway, I do think, I have a feeling Cena might actually win, to be quite honest. But as far as the playoffs, nothing's changed. I still like the Lakers to beat the Celtics. And it's from another wrestling story. So Dominic and Rey Mysterio became the first ever father-son. And wrestling said this in any sport. They didn't even say like sports entertainment. They just said in any sport to win a championship together. So Braun and Brawny have the same opportunity. If you notice, somehow Brawny's now even though he's been trained by LeBron his whole life, all of a sudden, like midway through the year, he's learning fundamentals and he's actually showing he can play on an NBA team. Again, just shows how scripted it is. But the Mysterios are from California. Another little tidbit there. So I think for sure LeBron and Bronny are going to copy the Mysterios and win the championship together. And another reason I have LeBron winning, there's just no way him and Steph retire on the same amount of rings. I think they're going to have to tie him with Kobe, because I don't think the NBA wants Kobe in the GOAT discussion. And honestly, he really, to be honest, I don't think he is the greatest of all time. If we're going by NBA, just by who had the best career, I think it's Kareem by a landslide. I can see the argument for a prime Jordan, and again, this is pretending it's real, but I just don't see how Jordan has this automatic number one status. But they like LeBron being compared to him, not Kareem for some reason, and it's because they're the marketable guys. So I think LeBron has to pass Steph, get into the Kobe tier, and then they could start talking about, maybe if he's on Jordan's level, which I could see an argument for both there with real basketball, just because LeBron played like 10 years after Jordan and averaged like the same, if not better numbers than Jordan did in his prime. So besides obviously the 6 for 6, which is huge, you also can argue LeBron's been there like twice as much. So there's a lot that LeBron, again, in a fair analysis, would be considered the greatest. I think it's Kareem. Same amount of rings as Jordan, more MVPs. He won in the beginning, he won in the end, and he didn't need a super team to do it. So yeah, I think Kareem's easily the greatest. But Jordan, because of Nike, of course, is going to always get that treatment. But yeah, with the whole Cena thing, I think it's interesting. Going from, essentially, again, Boston to LA. And his reign being right in the middle of the Lakers, Celtics, the same number as the Lakers. But yeah, I think the Lakers win it. Bronny I guarantee there'll be one game where Bronny comes in and has a clutch game. Whether he wins a game, I'm not sure if they do anything like that. But I can certainly see it. And then Luka too. Luka, the reason I like Lakers Celtics, and this wasn't the case at the beginning of the year, but it's just another thing I like now. You have Luka getting a rematch with LeBron, which LeBron has done on his own. Where LeBron went to the Lakers to get his rematch against the Warriors. So it's it all kind of ties together pretty nicely. I know a lot of people saying Lakers, Cavs, which I get because you'd have Bron and Bronny going back home, and I can see that. I just think it's gonna be Boston. I really do. I think they want to establish them, and make the fact that the Lakers would be going to tie Boston. And I think that's a narrative in itself. They both get to 18, and now who's going to get the 19 first? So I love the Lakers to win it. I like the Suns a lot more than I did, to be honest. Like, I actually think, I think Dallas is going to flip the Kings. I really do. And then we'll get Dallas Suns in the first round in the play-in. And I think the Suns will win it. That's just my opinion. But I think the Suns are definitely going to probably get to, like, I think they could get as far, honestly, as the Western Conference, just because, again, all these fake KD fights is going to make for good ratings, So him fighting Steph Curry and then in the next round fighting LeBron or whatever the heck happens, I think has a lot of possibilities. Grizzlies, Warriors, even Nuggets, I just don't see much with, to be quite honest. I think they're going to be, at least 2 of the 3 I think are going to be early eliminations. Clippers, I don't see anything with. Wolves, I don't see anything with. Kings, I really don't see, and I really don't think it's going to be the Thunder either, because SGA is going to win MVP. Typically, when that happens, the team doesn't win the championship. So, for a plethora of reasons, like, it only leaves, like, the Lakers and Rockets would be a surprise. But I think you need a powerhouse to go up against Boston, who I think it's going to be. So, yeah, from almost every angle, I love Lakers Celtics here. I know for a few years in a row, people were telling me Lakers Celtics, and I was saying I didn't see it. I explained, I said, I don't think LeBron's going to get shit until Bronny debuts. That's been my stance for like 4 years now. After the bubble, he got the bubble title, and I said he's not going to get shit again until Bronny debuts. And I said the same about Steph, except he's just not going to get shit again. He's going to retire on 4. That's more than enough for him. Again, they're not going to give him 5. They're just not going to make it where LeBron drops to that conversation. They want him in the Jordan conversation. So, yeah, that's basically it. I really wanted to kind of go over the wrestling logic, because it might sound crazy, especially if you don't watch wrestling. But if you do, I think you'd have to admit there's a lot of crazy coincidences with wrestling and NBA, NFL. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Knicks just don't seem the same this year. Pacers seem like a perfect team to be exciting, maybe get an upset in the first round. I think even with they have a better record than Milwaukee. If they draw Milwaukee and beat them, I think that would be considered a pretty big upset. But I really like, because I can't even tell you, I'm almost positive Milwaukee still has Doc, but if he was fired, it's one of those things I probably wouldn't even notice, but I saw him in a recent game, so I imagine he's still their coach. I really think Bucks Celtics makes a lot of sense. I don't think we got that last year. And the year before, it was Sixers. I think Doc was on the Sixers. And I thought we were going to get Sixers Celtics, but then I think they wound up drawing the Heat or something. Or maybe they did play the Celtics. I'm trying to remember. And then I thought he was... But my logic was like Doc's going to go up against his former teams. So him going up against Boston makes a lot of sense, especially if it's going to be Boston Lakers, which we got the year Doc. I think that was the year Doc was coaching the Celtics, right, when Kobe played him. So there's a lot of tie-ins, but yeah, Milwaukee Boston seems like a good draw. So I think Milwaukee gets out of the first round for sure, and the final 4 I think comes down to something like Boston, Milwaukee, Detroit, New York, something like that maybe. Or maybe they do give Cleveland a little bit of a push. I say this all the time. Cleveland really gives me Minnesota Viking vibes, where I feel like no matter how good they do, they're just not a draw in the postseason. So they're like perennial first, second round eliminations, outside of when they had LeBron, of course. So I just don't see them doing much. I could definitely see them getting bumped by whoever they play, whoever it winds up being. So they'll win in the first round, of course, because it's going to be the winner of the play-ins. And the 7 through 10 is just a complete bore fest. There's no way any of these teams are advancing. So I imagine Cleveland would draw, I might say Chicago. I think it'd be a 4 game sweep. But then in the next round, if they draw, say, Detroit or even Milwaukee, I think they would lose. So I don't have much faith in the Cavs. I think they're gonna lose. Like I said, probably in the second round, and then we get something like Boston, Milwaukee, again like Detroit, New York, or something like that in the next round. And then yeah, for the West, I think something like Suns, Lakers, Thunder. I almost want to say Rockets for like the four. Maybe instead of the Rockets we might get Golden State, but I just don't think I don't see Memphis, Clippers, Wolves. I don't see any of them making any kind of run, but the Suns I do. Again, just because of KD and all these fake fights. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to go into a couple different things. I think the wrestling logic is definitely something to keep your eye on, and we'll see if it pans out. We'll see if the Lakers do indeed beat the Celtics here. Luka gets his vengeance, starts padding his resume. I think he's going to finish his career as a top 10. I think he's going to get a few championships. And even when they were talking about Ant, and now they're talking about SGA, who, by the way, I think is a complete red herring. He's getting the Chiefs treatment, where it's like, oh, he gets every call, just like Mahomes. And I think people are going to think it's rigged for the Thunder, and they're going to lose. But they're pushing all these guys to the face. Tatum. And to me, I said a million times, like, Luka's the only guy that looks different. He plays like LeBron, like Magic. He's got charisma. He's got that grit. He's got a good look. So, like, to me, Luka is the only guy who makes sense to succeed LeBron and kind of be the new face. And to do that, you got to win a couple championships. So I think Luka's going to have no less than 3 in his career. And more importantly, he's going to have crazy numbers. So Luka, LeBron, Bronny winning one together just makes perfect sense to me. And beating the Celtics just is kind of the cherry on top. So yeah, let me know what you think. And let me know what you think about the live videos. Because I think that would be a lot easier and definitely more consistent if I just went live. We can do them on the weekend too, of course. But, during some of these games, especially in the playoffs, that'll be fun. I think that'll probably be a good time to really hit them, especially as the playoffs progress. But a couple years ago, I did the NBA videos were probably the most fun, to be honest. Just going into we did a lot of Heat Thunder, I'm sorry, Heat Nuggets videos, and before that, Heat Celtics. I actually had predicted once the Heat went up 3-0, I just had this feeling that the Celtics were going to win the next 3 and lose Game 7. We did a lot of live videos where I went into that, and that's exactly what happened. I just had this feeling. The Red Sox came to mind, but I just thought they weren't going to pull the trigger on it. I really thought the Heat were going to win that year. They made it much further than other people had them making it. But the Jimmy story was pretty big. I mean, it was a huge story, the Jimmy versus the world story, essentially. So I did think he was going to beat the Nuggets. So I didn't get that far. They didn't get that done, but I still think a pretty good call because not many people had them getting too far. But yeah, that was we did a lot of live videos during that 2 years ago during the playoffs, and I think last year we might have done like a live video or 2, but it wasn't nearly as many, and I had fun doing them. So I would love to cover some of these teams: the Thunder, the Suns, of course the Lakers, Celtics, Knicks would be fun to look at, and Detroit. So we can do whatever games are on, and I'll still do regular season ones too. But yeah, just let me know a good time. It would have to be like at least 6:00 p.m. and we could try and set something up like twice every week or whatever, 3 times every week. At the same time every night. That'd be cool. So yeah, I appreciate you guys, your patience, and I wish I could have like a bunch of new things. I haven't gone into the Cena thing that much before, so that's kind of new. But nothing's changed as far as who I like. I've liked the Celtics, Lakers since the beginning of the year. And it wasn't like last year. Last year I liked the Celtics, and I kept saying I think it's going to be them versus the Mavericks, but I could see the Clippers. Because last year it made sense to me. this year only two teams make sense to me, and that's Lakers Celtics. So you guys have a good night. Take care and happy earnings.